here with Paul Mikel, founder of Revo Rideshare and Pixa. Thank you so much for being part of Under Pressure.
No worries. I'm excited to be the first one, I guess you said. I don't know when you're going to air this, but when I was thinking about it this morning, I was like, so did they ask me to be the first one because it's going to be great and a great kickoff, or there's nowhere to go but up?
I'll let you decide what you truly believe.
Oh, I know. It's nowhere to go but up.
Exactly. Only one way to go but up. But
Right.
all joking aside, thank you so much for being part of the show. And I want to know, and the audience wants to know, who is Paul Mikel?
So that's deep. And I'm not that deep.
It's a deep show.
So I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. I was adopted at a very young age, and about 6 weeks old. I had amazing parents. I was raised in a very middle-class family. I didn't really I was not one of those people you'd ever be voting on to be maybe most impaired, not most improved. But I went to high school, barely got out of high school. I took algebra twice in high school and failed it both times. Tell people I loved it so much I want to do it again. But I was raised by parents who were very, very over-the-top great. Like my dad was a computer genius. My mom finished high school in 3 years, college in 3 years. I tell people I didn't get any of that smart blood. But when I got out of high school, I got kicked out when I was 17. My mom says that I moved out. I said, you kicked me out. And no matter what it was, I just didn't have a place to live anymore because I didn't want to follow the traditional rules.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go to college. My parents raised me to be a pastor and be in church and had me doing all these things, but I loved the F word too much. So at 17, 18.
Which you could say on the show. So if you love it, go ahead.
Well, I just like the F word just without saying it. I'll say it a few times later now that I have permission. But so I ended up waiting tables in a country club. I was in first country club I ever waited tables in was a place called Shady Oaks Country Club. We had a member there who nowadays people probably won't know who it is, but it was like the Tiger Woods of that time, Ben Hogan. Ben Hogan was towards the end of his life. He was one of the best golfers ever.
Did they make a movie about him?
Probably.
I was thinking.
But I mean, he was one of the best golfers ever. Uh-huh. And I ended up waiting tables on him. And at that time, when you're 19, 20, 21 years old, you don't really understand who you're around. But I started realizing I wanted something different. I would wait tables on people. I was doing valet parking. I got to drive some of the nicest cars for that time, but I only got to drive them like 40 feet.
Still counts.
I understand, but they weren't mine. Mm-hmm. And I started realizing nobody was showing me how to become successful, but I got to be around all that wealth. And so when I was 22, I went to a seminar. I started seeing people talk about how you become wealthy. Doesn't matter where you came from, matters where you want to go. All the cliche things that people say about success, I started believing. And so I didn't go to college, didn't do all those things, but I started working on myself, personal development. I started working to become a better speaker, and I just started learning sales. And so I got into sales, got into network marketing at the time, and I just started working on myself. And I saw a guy speak in front of people. He mesmerized over 800 people, kept their attention for like 8 hours. I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. And so I met him. I didn't even meet him in the first place. I started listening to his books, listening to his tapes, going to his seminars. I spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars going to seminars on a yearly basis. While a lot of people were going to college, I was going to seminars. I was working on myself. I was becoming a better speaker. I was learning how to, discern different personality types, how to make people like me more, how to get more out of people and get more out of myself. So over the last 20 years, 30 years now, I've just learned how to disrupt industries. Mm-hmm. I've learned when you fail, you just get up and go back on it. I mean, if I went through all the failures I've had, they've been way more than the successes. But the one thing I'm not afraid of is failing. If it sucks and it goes bad, okay, great, I can go do something else. And I mean, over the last 5 or 6 years, I've had things that were really good and failed. And instead of getting depressed for too long, it's just go find something different. So that's really my life has become about disruption. And when you're younger, nobody wants to pay you for being a disruptive person. They want you to sit down, shut up, go to school, get good grades, stay in line. But over time, it's become where I can find things that are bad in the world and try to fix them.
And you mentioned that you were adopted. Do you think you always had that chip on your shoulder then?
I used to not think that. I used to want to try to go, oh, no. I was in a great situation. And I was. It's funny. When I was about 16, my parents put me into church therapy with a church therapist to deal with that. And I didn't really know much about my adoption. I just knew that I was adopted. It was never a big deal to me. And the therapist thought it would be a good idea for my parents to sit me down and explain about my adoption. And my parents told me that my biological mother had a husband. He was in prison. While he was in prison, she got pregnant with me and then found out he was getting out of prison, and so put me up for adoption so that he wouldn't kill her or I. And I said, wait a minute, y'all thought this was such a sweet story. Y'all should tell me this. So that kind of messed with my head a little bit. But I think that I just started realizing that I didn't think I had a chip on my shoulder, but now I'm like, you know what? I have to prove things. You know, not being good in school, not being smart, I had a chip on my shoulder, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, you can use it for good or bad. Some people, I think, use it as a negative and they get upset and they're depressed about it. I just look at it and go, you know what? It means more to me when I outproduce someone that's got 5 degrees, somebody that's this, somebody that's that, and then I just do better than them.
And I love how you talked about failure as well. And you are a great public speaker. That's the only compliment you're going to get on the entire show. But your first time out the gate, was it an immediate success?
Oh my God, it was like watching a live abortion.
Really?
I don't know if anybody's ever watched a live abortion, but I would think that's what it looked like.
I don't think they have many views on YouTube.
That's probably
I'd imagine not
well,
most
if you found my first
not most
speaking
people watch
engagement,
that.
that would be it. So I was actually in Fort Worth, Texas, and there was a guy that was a speaker, and every Thursday he would drive to Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yeah.
3.5 hour drive. And I would be like, you know what? If I can get time around this guy, 3.5 hours in a car, I can ask him questions. I can be around him. I can just soak it in when nobody else gets that time. Mm-hmm. And I was one of those people that just believed the cliches. If you get time around a mentor, you get time around somebody. So I did it every Thursday. And every Thursday I'd beg him, hey, can I just do the front? We had these 2 parts. The first part of the presentation was like 20 minutes. The last part was like 30, 40 minutes. So you had the opener and the closer. And I was supposed to do these presentations, and we had stuff on a deal, and it was supposed to take 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I was so scared, and there was only like 7 people in the room. I stood in a corner. It's supposed to take 20 minutes. It took maybe 4. People knew less when they walked out of the room than when they walked in. I was supposed to do these presentations. I was supposed to write on a board. I was so scared. I just wrote like this because I didn't want to turn my back on the people. And I could see the guy that I was working with outside of the room, and he was like, his face was like, he came in and fixed everything I messed up.
Thank goodness.
But we got in the car and we're on our way home and I'm like, man, I sure sucked. And he goes, you sure fucking did. And I said, wait a minute, like, aren't you supposed to be supportive? This is your first time. No. You'll get better. He goes, listen, Paul, you know you sucked. I know you sucked. If I tell you did great, it's your first time, don't worry about it. You're going to keep sucking. He goes, at least now we have a place to start off from. And he goes, this is what you did wrong. This is what, and he started working with me. So then the next time I did it, it got a little bit better. And within 90 days, I was one of the best speakers in the office because I was willing to put myself in that position to have somebody trash me. Like even today, I'm working on Revo Rideshare. Garrett, one of our friends and business partners, I was talking to him the other day, and I did this with my delivery company before Kenny and Rochelle and I got involved. I went to Garrett and I said, I want you to trash what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I want you to take it and tell me everything that's wrong with it. And I just did it with Garrett again the other day because a lot of times we get caught up in ourselves and, oh, I'm so smart, I'm this and that. And I've been one of those people that I'm just willing to take criticism and fall down. And like I said, like you just asked me, was it from the get-go good? No, it sucked hard. And it sucked for a long time. But I think even now at this age, I'm 54 years old, I'm not afraid to try something new. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid to start over. I'm not afraid to learn something new. I'm so into AI and all the different things that are coming out. When a lot of people, as you get older, you stop doing that.
Get set in your ways.
Yeah, you get very comfortable. I have become in my life being very comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know, I have friends of mine that, you know, they'll buy a bunch of houses, they'll put a bunch of money in the bank. I live better broke. I hate to say that, but it's like, you know, a lot of my friends, you know, we had a business where we were making a boatload of money. They had houses, they bought cars, and I just dated more and spent more money on experiences. And then when everything's tightened down for them, they had to really tighten down. I just had to quit dating for a minute. And I fixed my income.
Clearly one of the toughest things you've ever had to do.
No, it's not tough.
One of the things that I think I need to work on myself personally is taking constructive criticism. I'd like to think I have tough skin, but you know when I get criticized, dude, I just get in my little shell.
I don't love it.
And I'm like, how dare you? How dare you critique me?
You know what I've learned, though? If you go ask for it, it's a lot easier than if you don't ask for it. You know what I'm saying? If somebody just gives it to you and they're telling you suck, if you go to somebody and go, hey, can you tell me what I suck at? it's a lot easier to take because they don't do it in a harsher way. They're not mad at you. So it's like, I think if we would all ask people, hey, what can I do better? What can I work on? How can I do this? I go to Kenny and Michelle for advice on stuff all the time. Kenny doesn't always answer me or call me back on it, but I'm
It
just
happens.
kidding.
You know what? It keeps you humble.
Yeah, because you need to stay humble. You know, it's too many egos get in the way. You know, I learned one of my favorite sayings a long time ago. I learned is if you're not going to be pretty in the face or skinny in the waist, you better be funny and make a lot of money. So instead of leaning into trying to fix the things I'm not good at, I lean into the things I'm really good at.
Well, for those that are actually watching, they can see those beautiful baby blues of yours.
That's all I got.
Everybody listening, just audio-wise.
I told people
I'll
that,
let you know he's a handsome
God
guy.
would have given me skinniness and these eyes and my personality, nobody else would have a chance.
Well, all right. That's mighty bold. But I do want to talk about Revo rideshare.
Right.
I mean, there's Uber, there's Lyft. To me, it seems like they have cornered that market. What sets Revo rideshare apart?
So I like to go after, you know, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And I've watched over time, anything that has a big corporation attached to it, a lot of times they start out really good. Like right now, I'm re-watching, there's a show called Super Pumped. It's the story of Uber and how it was started. And in the beginning, Uber was the taxi killer. Uber came along, started paying the drivers more, made it easier for the customers. Everything was great. And then over time, they've started making it harder and harder and harder. And I watch trends, and I watch for years and years and years, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, these companies, they didn't care if they made money. They really didn't. They could care less. They had institutional money, they had backing, they had venture capitalists, and these venture capitalists knew you just had to get market share. So for the longest time, they were just trying to get market share, Now, these investors and these stockholders are wanting a return on their money. So now what is happening is they go out and they take it. Listen, you got to get money from one or two places in rideshare. You either get it from the customers by raising prices, or you get it from the drivers by paying them less. And so if you've ever heard the analogy, if you have a hot boiling pot of water and you throw a frog in there, the frog's just going to jump right out. But if you put it in a warm pot of water and then turn up the heat a little bit at a time, pretty soon you're going to have frog legs because it's going to boil that frog. And it's the same thing. Over time, they've consistently started taking advantage of the customers by charging higher prices and taking advantage of the drivers by taking it to where they're making 60, 70, 80%, down to now where the drivers are only maybe getting 45 and 50%. I've been doing rides with Uber drivers and like surprising them with money at the end and talking to Uber lot drivers, Lyft drivers, and they consistently tell me, I had a lady the other day that started crying because I gave her a $300 tip, and I have it on video. And I talked to her. She had come from, where did she come from? Cuba. She had to go through 9 countries to get here 15, 20 years ago. She's a legal citizen. She has her CDL license. She drives 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, just so she can make ends meet. She has a 21-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son that she hardly gets to see. And when I handed her that $300 and said there's a different way that our company pays 70%, up to $80, we pay 70% of every dollar goes to the driver. After that, 80%, after $80, 80% goes to that driver. And she starts crying just because she sees a way out. And I said, listen, I can show you how you can have your own customers. Those customers are tied to you. We give the drivers the ability to set their own rates. So drivers can make it so it's a flat rate. They can set rates that are, competitive. They can have customers go directly to them. How many times have you ever gotten an Uber or a Lyft and you loved the driver?
Yeah.
But you knew you were never going to get that driver again.
It was just a momentary thing.
Unless that driver gives you their own business card. Now, Uber and Lyft have become a marketing arm for that driver. I just leaned into it. I told the drivers, listen, if you have a good customer and they want to use you again, they can mark you as their favorite driver.
It's like going to a restaurant. You find your favorite server.
Yes,
you're
and you
going
keep
to go
going
back to that restaurant just maybe because of that server. The food might not even be that great. And I do like the competitive price aspect of things because just especially when you have those surge rates for big festivals or something like that, if you could be that driver that maybe cut a little bit off the top,
the driver
people
can
are
go
going to
and
go
look
to
at
you.
what the rates are and then go into their own app and set it 5 to 10% lower. They don't have to go drastically lower. Just be better, because our motto is our clients pay less, our drivers make more, and every time someone does a ride, someone gets a reward. So if I can make it so, another reason why a lot of clients don't tip because they think they're getting charged so much that that driver
It goes to the driver.
That's not true.
I always thought that.
That's not true though. But so now when drivers are sitting there talking to their customers, and we also give the drivers and customers an ability. If you bring a customer in, we have a QR code, you download the app, you give it to another customer, every time they do a ride, you get 3%. No matter where they do it in the country. Same thing with our drivers. I tell our drivers all the time, look, listen, if you don't believe driverless cars are coming, you've got your head in the sand. It's about to happen with Elon stuff in Austin. Driverless cars.
There was Waymo. I was in Arizona. They have Waymo.
You called me and told me about it. Did you use it?
It was an experience. I was kind of still sketched out about the whole situation. And then the week after, there was one that just got caught up in a roundabout.
Which is
a roundabout for like 40 minutes.
Listen, there's been the ones that gone the wrong way, but everything takes time.
You made it seem like that's not a big deal going the wrong way. That's a huge problem.
It's a horrible wrong way, but it also means progress. Because as time goes along, it gets better and gets better. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, I was thinking about it the other day. My grandfather died when he was 68, probably about 28, 30 years. If I would have brought a phone out then like we have now, he would have thought it was satanic. Yeah. They were taking my soul.
You thought they put you in the church programs before,
yes,
bro.
Oh my gosh. But now it's like it's normal. It's like AI. I use AI for everything I do now. A year ago, I would have thought it was crazy to be able to write a whole business plan, put together. You'd make pictures out of AI. But it's like, if you think that's not coming, it is. So I tell our drivers, like, listen, if you start getting customers and those customers are tied to you and you make 3% whether you do the ride or not, over time, let's say you had 1,000 customers, 3%, and we have to go to driverless cars. Instead of me taking that money and put it into corporate pockets or paying shareholders, what if I could take that money and give it to drivers who build the company now?
Yeah.
So it's like I look at everything that we do, and it's hard because it's sometimes like, I have a burn rate of a lot of money on a monthly basis right now. I have a certain number of rides I have to hit to break even. And so I've said, listen, everything in our life right now has to go towards marketing. We've got to flip it. I got to hit 7,000 rides to break even every month. And as time goes up, there'll be a little bit more money, but I will never let it get to where I know there's one of the big rideshare companies has 33,000 employees, not drivers, employees that they pay an average salary of $77,000. Why do you need to do that? You know why? Because of corporate waste, because of, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then nobody wants to lose their job. Mm-hmm. These guys that I'll never make a salary of $500 million a year or $100 million a year like some of these CEOs do, because that's not how this is built.
Yeah.
This is built for transparency. This is built for the drivers to make money. I make money other ways, and it's like we call Revo because it's a revolution, and it really needs to be a revolution, and it needs to stay that way. It's like I don't want to have to answer to shareholders. I want our drivers to be our shareholders. I want our drivers to have a say in what's going on, because if it ever comes down to me making a decision, I can mess it up. I can. I've seen me do it. I've seen me do it in other businesses. But if I always put people first, it usually works out well.
That's beautiful. That is actually very beautiful, Paul.
Well, it's a hard thing it's a revolution, and it's hard to make people's change. It's funny. I get drivers all the time. They're like, I'm so excited. I'm so fired up. And then you say, they're like, I want something different. Then you give them something different, and they're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That's really different. So it's like now I'm kind of changing my model where I'm going to go out and get the customers. I'm going to do advertising, because what we're doing now is already changed some drivers' lives. Mm-hmm. I've got some drivers in Kansas City who they're doing about 200 to 300 rides on a monthly basis. And they're repeat rides. They're the same customers over and over and over, and they're building that relationship. So now when you're a server in a restaurant and you have the same customers come back, guess what? They start tipping you more because they build that relationship with you. It's the same thing. I believe everything in life is a relationship, and if you don't cultivate those relationships and teach people how to do it, like I'm going to do a call after we get done with this today, and I'm going to teach our drivers, again, how to go out and talk to people, because I think that that's a lost art. My kid would rather not talk to people if he can help it. Most people would. He would rather text me than get on a phone call with me. And I'm like, I think that, as time goes by, the people that, as society changes and we start having robots and all these different things, people with communication skills are going to be the ones that still thrive.
Speaking of robots, not to completely turn this on its head, did you see that Kawasaki motorcycle? It looks like a horse, dude.
Oh my gosh! I don't even know when that's going to be used.
What are you going to do? You know who's going to get one of those, right?
Criminals. So
Not just
backyards.
Not just criminals. Kenny. Kenny will 1,000% get that.
Oh yeah.
Could you imagine?
He'll be wearing that same helmet.
We're at the Breakers. Kenny, who owns the Twisted Tuna, one of our incredible sponsors,
yes,
just rolls up on that, dude.
Oh my god.
Probably shirtless. There is no way that's not happening.
With some big music with his mane flowing.
It's going to be glorious.
Oh my god!
I hope that happens more
than
anything.
Him throwing the fob to the guy here. Take care of this. They have it parked right out front next to the Ferraris and everything at Burger.
His will roar. He'll have certain features that nobody else can get.
That would be beautiful.
But let's try to focus for a second. It's easy to get distracted when me and you are hanging out. True. But now let's talk about Pixa. Because you like to disrupt yet another industry that I feel there are the big brands, the Facebook, the Instagram, the TikTok.
So the reason why I went into that is the same thing. My mentor, one of the biggest things he taught me is find a big problem. If you come up with a big problem to a big solution to a big problem, you usually get a big paycheck. Mm-hmm. And the big paycheck isn't as important to me because I know that just comes. Yeah. But what I realized is like the reason why I really got passionate about rideshare is because I didn't sit at home when I was little and go, man, someday I hope I can build an app and deal with developers. They can lie to me and charge me a lot of money and deal with people. That was not what I sat around doing, but I want to make a positive impact on people. So the reason why I started Revo Rideshare, got really passionate. I was on a ride in Salt Lake City, 5 a.m. I had to get from up in Sundance all the way down the mountain. It was icy, snowy, rainy. I had to have a driver pick me up. I got in the car with her. It was over an hour. She's putting the time, effort. She had to hope I didn't cancel. Mm-hmm. All the stuff on, the wear and tear on her car, the insurance, all the costs. Go an hour. And I said, do you mind if I ask you how much you're getting paid? And she said $95. And I said, well, I'm paying $263. Like, I just realized that wasn't right and it wasn't fair. And so that's really why I got passionate about it. And then I have a good friend of mine. I was introduced to him. His name Paul Cafaro. He's a big YouTuber. I was introduced to him when he's about 18 years old. We were trying to do a business thing together. I kind of felt like maybe I could mentor him until I really got around him and I realized he's 18 years old. He's making about $40,000, $50,000 a month off of YouTube. What am I going to mentor him with? But we became friends. And I think I kind of have become a little bit of a mentor to him over the years, but I really started watching what he did. And at 18, 19 years old, he was spending, everybody wants to be, when you're little, you and I, or at least when I was growing up, everybody wanted to be a doctor, an attorney, a lawyer. Now, kids, all they want to do is be a YouTuber. Yep. That's it. I want to be a YouTuber, a Minecrafter, an influencer, whatever it is.
I'm 38 years old trying to be an influencer. Trust me, I understand exactly what you're saying.
And so he was doing it. And I said, listen, I started watching him and hanging out with him a lot, and I started realizing how much time and effort he was putting into it. He would have to, he may make $40,000 a month, but then he has to put all the time and effort into filming, coming up with the ideas. With what he does is he buys a house and a farm and he starts building on it. He builds ponds, he builds animal enclosures, he just lives with these animals. And so he was spending $20,000 or $30,000 a month. Then he would have to go outside and get brand deals outside of it. And I said, you're killing yourself, dude. You're working 24/7. You're either filming, editing. He had, people on his staff. He had a manager that was going out and getting, and I said, how much are you making off the advertising? Because I'm sure that's where the money comes from, is the more people that are viewing his stuff. Gary Vaynerchuk says everything in life right now is about attention. We day trade in attention. And so he was getting the attention. I said, well, how much are you getting off the advertising dollars that are coming? He said, I think about 45 or 50%. And I said, are you really? Well, that's what they tell me. And I said, so you have to work $30,000 to $40,000 a month, $50,000 a month. Let's say it costs you $40,000 to do everything. Is that about fair? And he said, yeah. And I said, so to actually live the lifestyle you want to live, having nice cars, traveling, doing all the things you want to do, you have put yourself in a job, essentially, because if you don't produce and you don't have new videos and they're not entertaining, and I said, and they can demonetize you at any time. He's had videos that put up that they demonetize him for no reason. He didn't know if it was the music they had on it. He didn't know if he said something wrong. They just said, we're not going to pay you on this video. But do you think
you can appeal it and it takes forever and
there's
they don't
nobody
even
you can talk to. And then he had to go outside. He does brand deals. So he has companies that come directly to him, or his manager goes out and finds him and they pay him $20,000 or $30,000. And I said, well, what if I could go out and develop an app that had all the same characteristics. It's not hard, you know. I mean, I can develop an app like a TikTok. Like, I mean, if you watch what's going on with TikTok, they're still having a war over whether it's going to exist or not.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so I went out and I put my developers on it, and I said, what if we could build a program that was transparent, that had all the social media aspects? Like, let's say it had a long form for YouTube, had the TikTok short form, had the Instagram, had social selling. That's going to be a big thing within Pixa, because social selling is one of the fastest growing things. Like, if you watch now, I mean, I buy stuff. I hate it. When I was younger, I used to have a closet full of all the infomercial stuff they had. Now I'm starting to get a TikTok closet because I buy the stupid stuff.
Really? You go to the TikTok marketplace?
Not on purpose, but it's there in your face. But it's entertaining now. It's not just, here's a product, da-da-da. You got someone that's talking about it. So even Paul, I saw him do a thing last week. He bought a collection of geckos for $5,000, ended up doing online an 8-hour stream, made about $32,000 off of selling those. But it was entertaining in his audience. So I started realizing, what if we could do something that was transparent, build a program where we could show, listen, these are the dollars that are coming in from the advertising, and this is what you're going to get paid. Utilize blockchain technology so it's all transparent, so it's out there for people to see, and then take care of the influencers. You know, because I watch now, even, I mean, I was talking to one of my friends who has a podcast called Talk to Me Taylor. She was talking to someone that's a big influencer, and he told her, I'm thinking about going to start driving for Uber. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah, because they keep throttling it.
Yeah.
Every time you have a big
If she was a real good friend, she would have said, hey, what about Revo?
That's
Revo
true.
rideshare.
Well, she may have. She better have. I'm going to go back and ask her. But the thing about it is, it's like when you have these big corporations, and they're the only ones in control, it comes down to where they got to make money.
Yeah.
So who are they going to take it from? The influencers. Even though the influencers are the ones that are bringing the attention. You know, they're the ones that are the reason for the season. The reason why it all works is because they're the ones, but then they start throttling them and they start taking away from them. And that's one of the things I just believe, if we don't do that through Pixa, we'll be good to go.
I like how you're always looking out for the little man, or the little woman in this case, little person,
Right.
I should say.
Well, because I know that's where I came from.
Yeah.
I was one of those people that everyone thought, I mean, man, if you go back and look at it, I would have been the one that everybody thought was going to go nowhere. You know, if it's most likely to go to prison, it probably would have been me. Being homeless, living in back of my friend's dad's van. But for me to be able to get out of that, I think it's important for me to give back. My parents raised me a certain way, and when I was younger, I hated it, but now that I'm older, I love it, because it's like, I can go out and make money. I know I can.
Yeah.
I can go sell stuff. I can go do whatever, but it's not fulfilling for me. Just sitting around hoarding money is not fun. I mean, like, I was thinking about it the other day. For the last year, last 2 years, I probably made more money in the last 2 years than I've made in the last 5, but I wasn't as happy because I wasn't creating. I wasn't doing something that motivated me, invigorated me. I have some people that all they are is about money. Oh, let's just see how much money we can take from people. And that's not how I'm built. I want to make money for other people. I have way more fun when I'm helping other people be successful. I was listening to Joe Rogan today, and he was talking about how Kill Tony, that whole thing. Like, the guy, Tony Hinchcliffe, he gets more excitement, more energy, more seeing these guys that were nobody become somebody. So I know where I came from. All these cliches that I talk about that I really believed in, you know, if you forget where you came from, you're on your way back there. You know, being fake is not good. Like, all these different things I just learned, and I actually believed them.
I mean, I would like to try to hoard some money and just see how I feel about that. So if you want to just give me some,
No.
I wouldn't hate that, and we can go from there.
You're not pretty enough or young enough.
Debatable. But Paul, how would you like to play our very first game? Sponsored by
we
the
have
Twisted
games.
Tuna. Yeah, it's called Would You Trade It? Basically a spin on Would You Rather.
I don't even know what Would You Rather is, but okay.
You've never heard of Would You Rather?
This isn't like Truth or Dare, some weird thing you're and I are about to get into.
It's kind of similar to a Truth or Dare. So are you
All right,
ready?
let's go.
Would you trade looking at your mom's internet search history or your dad's internet search history?
What do you mean would I trade?
Who would you rather see?
I don't either. They're so boring. Either one of them would be fine.
You think so?
100%.
Really? You don't think there's any skeletons in those closets?
None.
The worst decision they ever made was scooping you up then.
They said, let's adopt a kid. And that's the last time they searched for anything.
I just like the visual.
No, my parents are two of the best people I've ever met in my whole life. So either one.
See,
of them.
that makes me think there's definitely something sketchy.
Well, maybe I want to read them both. Find out some stuff. Right.
So this one, I just like the visual. Would you trade wearing a bib every time you eat, or drink from a sippy cup every time you hit the bar?
I would drink from a sippy cup.
Do you think?
Because that would start some conversations.
How often do you think you can close with a sippy cup? I don't care how much money you make. If you're at a bar with a sippy cup,
if it goes right back
you try to approach
my whole saying, if you're not pretty in the face, skinny in the waist, you be funny and make a lot of money. The sippy cup's not going to hold me back.
Sippy cup will not be.
My Amex, if it wouldn't work, would.
Okay, that makes sense. Would you trade erasing your own memories or erase someone else's memories of you?
Oh, I'd rather somebody erase their memories of me. I don't want, because that's all I got when I'm done.
Is your memories?
When I'm sitting in the deathbed and everybody else is regretting what they did in their life, I get to look and go, oh my God, I did that and nobody else did.
I don't know. I think I'd rather erase my own memories.
Why?
I don't know. I would like to forget a lot of things that I've done.
Oh, see, you can't have
regret. The guilt is real, though.
What guilt?
I have guilt.
Well, then stop doing it.
Well, I wish I had some of what you had.
I mean, I don't have guilt. I have things I wish I could have done differently, but it's not guilt.
All right.
Because I know at the end of the day, and you're the same person. Your thoughts and your ideas you may make mistakes, but they're not on purpose. They're not mean-spirited. You're not out to get anybody. That's when I would have a problem and have guilt.
Yeah.
If I was out to get people, I may make mistakes and do stupid things along the way, but it's never with a bad intent.
I like that. You might have to add PR for me on your resume. So we got two more. Would you trade having X-ray vision, but only on people you find unattractive, or everyone has X-ray vision on you? That's a good one.
I would rather take the hit myself instead of have put people through.
Just let everybody see it. See it all.
No. I would rather. I would take the hit and suffer, so nobody else had to see me.
Dude, you have such high, level of attractiveness too. There's going to be a lot of people you're seeing naked, bro. There's a lot of people out there you're going to be seeing naked. You got to walk to the car after this. Okay. Remember that.
I'm going to look at people very differently.
Final one. Would you trade world peace for the Cowboys to win another Super Bowl in your lifetime?
Oh yeah, screw the world.
Screw the world? 100%, 100% Super Bowl?
Listen, I would trade many things to have another Cowboys Super Bowl.
I kind of want to deep dive into that.
Like, I pretty much would give up almost anything to have a Cowboys get another Super Bowl.
You have a son, Hunter.
I would give him up for a Dixie cup of water.
Dude, you didn't even hesitate. You give him up for that sippy cup for the bar.
I raised my child by myself for 10 years, and it's one of the things I'm most happy and accomplished of. But if I could have my son actually experience a Super Bowl, how old were you when the Cowboys went to last one?
95. I was 8.
See, I mean, you knew it.
That's terrible.
You knew it, but you didn't know it, right? Like, you weren't old enough to kill it. I was in my 20s.
Well, I actually thought I picked the greatest team of all time. They won 3 and 4 when I was younger. True. I was like, look at this, all these other suckers. And it was terrible.
And now 30 years later, we're still dying. But you know what? Our team is something that, like, they're always talking about them. But I would give it up for my son. Like, one day my son said, this is child abuse, right? Because we live in Florida.
Yeah.
He's a Cowboys fan. And he goes, you raised me to be this. And I said, you're welcome.
Listen to this. I grew up in the Bronx, and I was a Cowboys fan.
I mean, you got to go through adversity. So I was teaching my child adversity.
Now I want to talk about the Cowboys. We got to stay on this topic. Is there any chance our team gets out of just being mediocre? That's the only problem when someone is so successful, because that is what happened to Jerry Jones.
Right.
He doesn't need to be under pressure anymore. It doesn't matter. He believes his own nonsense.
You know that whole thing I said, if you forget where you came from, you're on your way back there? When he took over the Cowboys, they were nothing. He was in debt. Now it's like he believes he did it. My mentor, too, taught me, he's like, listen, when you start believing the hype is when you're screwed. It's like, I will never in my life believe that if I'm successful, it's only because of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, last company we built to $1 billion company had a little bit to do with me, but it also had to do with my partners, had to do with the field, had to do with other people. And when you start believing it's you, which I honestly believe Jerry Jones thinks it was a lot, 80% him, that will carry you and your ego goes so big. And when you're sitting there going, oh, we're the most, because the Cowboys are the most,
most valuable franchise
in the history of the world.
In any sport.
Over soccer, which is a worldwide deal. So your brain starts going, I must be doing something right. Yes, but if you're all about winning a championship like you say you are, you got to get your ego out of the way. You got to let people do their jobs. Right now, I'm dealing with that with Revo. I got us to a certain point, and it was growing, but I was like, you know what? For us to take that next level, I got to get myself out of the way. So I put Pedro, one of my best friends, and somebody I know that cares, somebody I know that's going to do the right thing. I put him as CEO so that I am not so close to it. So I'm like, listen, you can handle these things. He's going to be able to deal with different personalities better than I can. And so I know he's more analytical, so he can deal with the developers in a different way instead of me just screaming at them, because it's where I was starting to get. So instead of my ego being so big that I just think it's me, I'm happy that I was able to do that, make a decision, put somebody else in, and I don't think Jerry Jones is able to do that.
No, unfortunately, I think the only way things change is
if he passes on.
Yeah, when he's watching the games in heaven.
Yeah, but you know what? His son was taught the same way.
It's the same way, though. The son is the same exact way. Who knows if Stephen Jones is even making the decisions?
He might be. You know what? I didn't even think about that. He might be the one doing all the pulling the puppet strings.
I mean, because the thing that kills me the most is you look at our enemy, for lack of a better term, the Philadelphia Eagles. They do everything right.
Or the Washington Redskins. If you look at what happened to the Redskins.
Commanders. Between that and the abortion comment, bro, you're going to get us taken off air real quick.
I'm saying Redskins. Whatever. Washington Commanders. You took our defensive coach, who was amazing, who did so much good for our team. He went in 1 year, and yes, did he have a great quarterback coming in? Yes, but he created a different culture. He taught them they could win. He believed in them, and he didn't get in the way. And he's a motivator. I believe there's a lot of people that can teach. There's a lot of people that can do, but if you can't motivate people, make them think they can walk through a wall, which is what Jimmy Johnson did, which is what the coach Sirianni, the Eagles.
Most of the great coaches do.
Yeah, and you get somebody in there just does the status quo. I mean, who do we have? Who's our coach?
I don't even know who the coach is. That's true. That's
Schottenheimer.
Did we get Schottenheimer? That's who we went with?
Yeah,
that's so terrible.
That's the worst part.
See,
you don't even know who it is.
All these yes guys, and he wasn't even qualified.
No, I mean, when I start wishing Jason Garrett was back, that's a problem.
That is a real bad problem. I mean, I thought Jason Garrett was going to be the coach for 4 decades.
I mean, but every single one of them are vanilla. If you just look at it, it's like, you got to have people that motivate, and everything in life and in business. If you listen, if you look at what happened with our election, I don't love everything Donald Trump says. I don't agree with everything he does, but I believe that he struck a nerve and he just beat it into people, and he was a motivator.
Yeah.
He gets shot in the ear and keeps going. I've seen people, I was listening this morning, somebody's talking about that's a conspiracy deal. That's a pretty long way to go if he set that up. I know he didn't, but it's like, he motivates people. He excites people. He's got a personality. He works harder than anybody else. He, at 80, I think it's 78 years old, I looked it up the other day. He's got more energy, more excitement, and he listens to people. I think that's a big part of the problem now. People don't listen to people. When you're successful, a lot of times you start believing, like I said, it's you. And then you can believe you can do no wrong.
Yeah.
I have friends of mine that I think that's happened to them in some ways, that they start being successful, and then they start believing the hype. And I think back to Jerry Jones, and it all revolves around, don't believe the hype. My mentor taught me a long time ago, if you start believing when people tell you how great you are, you're going to lose your humility. You're going to start thinking it's you, and you're going to end up forgetting where you came from, put you on your way back there.
Did you find yourself ever in that situation where you started believing your own BS?
Many times. Because you start going, I think a lot of times you forget how you acted and treated people when you were broke. I try to go back to that and go, you know what? I'm no better. All I am is a mid-level Burger King manager without this money. I've been blessed to be able to be around successful people. I'm blessed to be able to see opportunities and take advantage of them when a lot of people won't. But I also know I could go backwards in a second. I could be homeless and broke again. I mean, whenever I got divorced, I was at the top of my game. I was making hundreds of thousands. There's a couple months we made $1 million a month, and I messed up my marriage. I'll take full responsibility for it. And at the time, my ex-wife left, took a bunch of money. I was like this horrible person in people's eyes. She left, went to another state. I ended up sticking it out. I started raising Hunter by myself from 10 years old on. I would get up in the morning at 6 a.m., make sure he got to school. Then I would go out and Uber drive in my Escalade before I went to and I learned the drug and alcohol treatment space. I was making 6 figures a year, but I had all this debt. I had all this stuff crushing down on me. And I had everybody thinking that I was this horrible husband, which I wasn't the best husband, but
It does take two to tango, though.
Yeah,
I'm sure she wasn't
I
flawless.
stuck it out. I stuck it out, and I took the hits. And now I get a lot of people's respect because I didn't run away. I didn't, give my kid to my parents to raise. I sucked it up. I was home every night. I dealt with it. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of because I took the hit. I was willing to change my lifestyle, change my philosophy. I didn't travel for almost 9 years. Mm-hmm. I traveled once in 9 years because I needed to be home with my kid. I didn't go anywhere. And I was used to traveling, speaking all over the world, doing seminars, the stuff I loved. But I was willing to make that change and become humble and go, you know what? I put myself in this position, but my kid doesn't deserve to suffer for it. And now, like I'm in that position now, and my kid's 22, and I'm hoping he comes out of the problems that he's had. But I know that it was funny. I was with my parents a few weeks ago, and my parents, I didn't talk to them for 5 years because I couldn't handle it. They were always coming down on me. You're going to hell if you don't change and this and that. And it was funny. I was telling my mom, I said, I really do hope that, what I taught him when he's younger and how he was raised and all the success principles, and he was in my seminars, I hope that he goes back to that. Because in the Bible, it says, if you teach a child while it's young, when he's old, he'll not depart from it. And my mom goes, well, it worked out for us because you're an example of that. And that killed me because I was like, thank goodness. Yeah. Because there's hope for my kid, just like there was hope for me,
That would be my biggest, I think, concern and worry as a parent is you could do everything right. You still have an asshole of a kid, though. That is the thing. I think you can do everything wrong and they can persevere. They could be under pressure and then
But it's funny.
come out the other side better.
My friends that have kids and they've been through this, not to maybe the same extent or whatever, because everyone's different. They're like, listen, when they become a certain age, they start, and it's good for me because when I started 23, 24, I started changing. I started thinking differently. So you just have to be consistent with your kid. You got to be consistent. I think one of the biggest problems I have is consistency. I mean, I'm really good when I want to be. But when I go off the rails and I want to go, gamble for a few days, or I want to have too many drinks, or I want to do this, I have to pull myself back because nobody when you're 50-something years old is going to do it for you.
Yeah. And it's tough because your son's at an age where he can see everything you do. He knows what you do. Yes. And then you are one of the most genuine people I know. And
I don't lie very much. And I don't hide very much.
You're a good time. So your son coming into his own, seeing that, he's like, hey, how come I can't do that with you, Dad? It's like, well, I mean, there's two different situations
you gotta get hard
here.
On him. Like I had a situation where I was making a bunch of money. I was supporting him. I was trying to get him to work for me. I was trying to do all these things. Finally, I had to cut him off. And just like my parents did with me, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done because you want to take care of your kids, especially if you have the resources to do it. But I know when my parents kicked me out and I had to figure it out, I did. They put me in a position. So it's like he lives next door to me, and, part of my friend owns a house. My friend rented out, and my friend came to me, and I said, listen, I'm not paying his rent anymore. He's going to have to do it. So now he has 2 jobs. He's paying his rent. He works 7 days a week.
Good for him.
He's got his head back on straight. He calls me every night on his way home from work and wants to talk about what's going on, how he can do this better, which job he should put more hours in. So it's like being consistent in yourself and holding yourself accountable, I think, is one of the most valuable things you can do. But then also being able to hold those around you accountable. So
that's good stuff.
I don't know how we got all of that, but
no, you know what?
I thought we just went from the Dallas Cowboys winning a Super Bowl.
That's the beauty of the show. So, Paul, I just want to thank you for joining us on Under Pressure. So, what do you have coming up before we get out of here? I know you're always traveling.
Yeah, but I'm also trying to put myself in a position where I get bored. I tell people when I have too much time, too much money, I get in too much trouble. So it's like I'm actually working on something kind of like this. I'm actually flying out to Nashville to meet with a guy to do that, and I'll probably still become a full-time groupie for Post Malone this year because he's starting a new tour.
That's good stuff. I mean, you have traveled a lot of places to see Post Malone.
I have. But, and it's funny. I did a lot of traveling last year, and it was like I'm one of those people that I go through spurts. Mm-hmm. I traveled a ton last year. This year, I've been home for almost a month and a half now.
It's the longest you've been home.
But I love it this way, too. I like getting my routine. I know when I'm in my routine, I'm disciplined. I get a lot more stuff done. Like this morning, I got up at 5:30. I went and played golf, came here and do this. I have the rest of my day planned out, have my week planned out. And I will leave you at the end of this. I think one of the most important things in life is who you surround yourself with. Like when you're in a relationship, I'm starting a relationship now with somebody who doesn't drink a lot, who doesn't like to go out and party. And I'm like, I'm so excited about it because I'm like, this person's going to help me stay more focused, you know? And when you're around people who drag you down, who are negative, who aren't positive, that's one of my biggest things is I have to be very guarded about because listen, I love to have fun. I could be one of those people doing drugs every day, drinking every day. I could very easily go that way. But it's like I try to surround myself with good people who aren't afraid to tell me when I'm going down that path.
Cut the shit.
Right. And so I think that that's what you and I have as well. Like, that's why we've been, I mean, I've known you since you started out as an intern in radio.
Yeah.
I've watched you grow. I've watched you go through ups and downs. And it's like, I'm so excited about you doing this now because I think it's you stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because you were in that corporate world thinking, hey, nothing's going to happen to me. And I've been outside of that corporate world for so long going, it's better out here. The ups and downs are harder, but it's so much better because you have more control of your own destiny, and it's only as hard as you're willing to work.
Yeah, first of all, I need structure. So this definitely helps. Secondly, I need this to succeed because I don't want to be a server my entire life. You know, I love the serving industry, nothing against it, but I feel like I have a lot more to offer.
It's not utilizing your full potential.
100%.
And your full potential is doing something like this. But everybody's doing this now, so it takes...
Oh, yeah.
It takes work. It takes dedication. You have people that believe in you. And a big thing for me, too, is the best I've done is when I didn't want to let other people down. And I know some people go, oh, you shouldn't live like that. Why not? Why not? If I pick people that are willing to invest in me and believe in me and put money behind it, that's when I do best. When it's just for me, I suck.
Yeah.
Because I know.
You can say, screw it. You'd be like,
I can
who
live
cares?
off
At the
of
end of the
whatever.
day, it's
I used
me.
to tell people, listen, I could live under a park bench. I've been homeless before. I've been broke before. It's not a big deal. But when I have my kid and I had him counting on me, I worked harder. Whenever I have employees and I have people that are, counting on this business to work so they have money, I work harder and I do more. So I'm fired up about you doing this.
Well, thank you so much. I think that's a perfect way to wrap things up.
Awesome.
Thank you again, Paul.